There are three things that I wish I would have learned how to do before becoming a school therapist. I'm Karen Dudek-Brannan, and I help pediatric clinicians be better leaders so that they can make a bigger impact with their work. So, back when I was starting out as a school speech pathologist, I was really focused on how to deliver good therapy. So, I was really thinking about what should I be doing when I am in a group with students and I'm trying to figure out how to teach them a lesson or something like that. And I think that that is a really appropriate place for a brand new clinician to start when they're starting their first job. You definitely need to get a handle on those things before you can start thinking about other things. But I slowly started to realize that if I just focused on what I was doing in therapy, that I was really limited with the impact that I could make with my services because I only had 30 to 40 minutes a week with my students, and then I would send them off into the rest of their school day. Then they would go home, and they didn't have the support that they needed across settings in order to be be able to apply a lot of the skills that I was trying to teach them in therapy. And as I started to talk to my other coworkers and people in related disciplines like the social worker, the psychologist, counselors, they were struggling with the same thing as well. And this is something that I see a lot with the clinicians that I mentor within all of those professions, is that they always are talking about how generalization is really a struggle across the board. And so going back to those three things, I think they would have helped me back when I was first starting out as a clinician. And they actually would help a lot of other clinicians out there. And that is learning to lead, empower, and influence other people when we are working as a multidisciplinary team. So, when we're actually working as therapists, we have to make sure that not just students don't just have the support that they need when they're with us. We have to make sure that they get support across the board. But the problem is that if we don't have any communication with the other members of our team, if we're not talking to the teachers and the parents and making sure that they have the support that they need in order to help students once they leave our rooms, then we're really going to be limited. So that's why learning to be a good leader is something that is so valuable to you. And it's not something that I learned how to do. Being able to empower other people on that team. So being able to give those other people, whether it's the other therapists, whether it is the other teachers, being able to give them the information that they need in order to support students, being able to train them and provide the follow-up support and be there as a trusted resource for them as you are sending your students off to them. That's really important. And then finally, being able to influence them. Many times they might need to change some of their practices for the long haul to even be open to doing a lot of the things that you're recommending. So we do need to have an influence on their beliefs as well. So again, those three things are being able to lead, being able to empower, and being able to influence. Those are things that are going to make a huge difference in how effective you are as a clinician. And they're also things that are going to have an impact on the way that you feel about your job. It's easy to feel really burnt out if you're showing up to work day after day, working so hard on what you're doing in therapy, but not seeing it make a difference. It's really hard to stay motivated, and that can result in career burnout. A lot of people think this is because you're overworked, but really it's because you need to learn how to make an impact. And the way to do that is learning how to be a good leader. But a lot of clinicians think that they can't do that because they're a therapist and they don't traditionally see that as a leadership role. They think they need to be an administrator or a supervisor. But actually, if you are a speech pathologist, a social worker, or a psychologist, you're actually in a very unique position to be a leader, especially if you are managing service plans and IEP teams. So people sometimes think, well, I don't have time to collaborate. People aren't going to listen to me. I'm here to tell you that all of those problems are very solvable if you have the right system. I actually was able to do a lot of these things myself when I was a school therapist. There were many times when I saw there was an issue with the way things were being done in my building, and I was able to work together with my team and actually be the leader on certain initiatives in my building and actually make things happen and actually change policies. And I was able to do it with a technique that I refer to as asset stacking. This is something that's really powerful, especially if you feel like you have a lot of different things that you'd like to change, but you don't think that you have the ability or the time to get them done as a therapist with a full-time caseload. So I'm actually walking through this technique in a free online training for clinicians. All you need to do to check out that free training is go to drkarendudek-brannan.com/asset stack, and you'll be able to learn how it works. So if you are a speech pathologist, a psychologist, a social worker, and you want to be a leader in your building and you want to make a change so that you can make a bigger impact with your services, then I invite you to sign up. Again, just go to drkarendudek-brannan.com/asset stack.